and yeah, we're good to go. I don't know how long it's been for me. So I think it's been a month since the last episode. So yeah, guys, thank you for participating. First of all, right? Second of all, I usually ask people one regular question: what brings you to Latvia?
Okay, let's split the answers.
Yeah.
I make half of the answer, he makes half of the answer. I'm in Latvia to play music, basically, with my friend and musician partner, Christian.
So Christian brought you here? Who was the initiator, instigator?
More in an indirect sense, I brought you here. Maybe the main guy who started everything is Jonathan, because he is obviously the exploring type of guy, looking for adventure in the whole world.
All right.
And especially these parts of the world, I think he likes very much. That's why I'm answering your part. That's why he went as an Erasmus exchange student to the music academy in Riga. I bet this is like that was just you would have gone here anyway, I guess.
We can roll this back for a long time, which is not needed now.
No, go ahead.
Finally, we brought each other here. We brought each other to here, finally. So he gives workshops at the academy now for the Latvian musicians. And we connected with concerts that we play over Riga as a duo, mostly, with some guests, and try to create atmospheres for people. Concerts, good places, good moments for everyone. So saxophone for him and drums for me means a lot, and we mix it in every possible way. To do this, it's our job and passion and life, it's everything.
So is it your like real day job almost?
It's the day job without almost, yeah.
Day and night job.
So you have, for how long is your career for you both?
For our duo, it's a couple of days. Our first concert was on Thursday in Canapes in Riga, and yesterday at the Kulturpilz. Now, what's the name?
Yesterday it was the VEF Culture Palace, which is a little bit outside, still in Riga, but you have to walk or drive out of the main town center. And so this project is very, very fresh, but it was planned beforehand quite a while. But yes, the first concert, the first real moment of music with this duo was at the 25th of April 2018, which is just 2 days ago, basically.
All right, so that's easy. So your origins, at least musically, for your duo, are in Riga. 2 days ago.
Kind of.
Yeah, it was a Latvian premiere.
Yeah.
So what is the prospect for the future for you guys? What is the thing you are aspiring to? Am I imagining you 1 year from now filling Wembley?
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
Well, to be realistic, which is not as fun, obviously. This music is more like the little Wembley arenas, like jazz clubs, art places. We are talking the same amount of people, but take away 3 zeros.
All right, fair enough. How do you manage actually when you go to play, or if you want to go to play? What do you do to actually find places that you can play in? How do you manage all the logistics? Do you have you probably don't have yet a manager, right?
Well, I have a manager, which is me. So I do it for me, or us in that case. And
so no agencies, no real intermediaries. It's just you and the people you talk to.
Well, we are part of many other projects too, and there are many people involved. It's a big network of journalists, agencies of all kinds of sort, labels, podcast guys like you.
Guess
So
so.
we all help out each other. It's like a community. It's a social art form as well. So and since it's not about that much money, it's always about more like the content and the passion you feel for the thing.
But you
art,
would like to
music.
get that cash.
Well, you know,
I mean, it wouldn't hurt, right?
no, it's just part of life, and there are many ways to earn money. There are many, yeah. Well, basically, you are always looking. I'm always looking for a human connection that feels good. You know, even if you are business partners. So I wouldn't do business with people I don't like. I won't play at a place where I don't like the people.
Have you ever done that? Canceling or refusing?
Yeah, I've done that. It's kind of easy sometimes because the money isn't as big anyway.
Mhm.
But oh right, I mean many jazz musicians. Have we said that we are jazz musicians?
Now we
At
say
least
we are
now,
jazz
yeah.
musicians.
So
Jazz
this,
musicians.
um,
Jazz musicians.
So we are musicians, and many musicians have jobs like teaching, and
Mhm.
you have institutions, you have cultural funding money from institutions, and this helps the art to grow and to stay alive. Of course, you need that money. Definitely, it's very important.
It's probably another aspect of this whole talk is we are quite in a different place career-wise. I just finished university. I finished studies of jazz and play mostly with my generation, and he is still very close to my generation, but a little bit above. He's teaching at university. He has another daily life than me. So we mix this together now, which creates a new flow for me, at least, because it's with every musician you play, it's different because he has a different life. And if I play with people of my generation, they have probably a more similar life than me. Maybe also a more childish way about looking to certain aspects, like the money thing or other things. So that's adventurous for me to do things with many, many people with different lives, different loves, different attitudes.
And how did you find each other?
Well, I live in Berlin, but since a few years I have a teaching job in Stuttgart,
Mm-hmm.
and he was a student in Stuttgart, and I had an ensemble about improvisation and playing the music of the great band Der Rote Bereich, and he was a vital part of that ensemble, very much an outstanding guy with a great aura and improvisational skills, and a great performer. So when he later on called me if I would like to do something with him, it's of course yes.
So that was your plan a couple of years ago to do something already?
The plan developed slowly because I was here as an exchange student, as he told in the beginning. So I was in Riga living for some time.
After you were in Stuttgart, right?
Yeah, it was in between, and I was also in other places, but this was happening then. And, and I had the feeling, okay, this institute here has a different vibe than other institutes because it's a different place on earth and everything is different. And maybe there can be some logical project to do. And then I was remembering the things in Stuttgart and what was touching me the most. And he has a very special way to play the saxophone, we have to say. It's also not the way how you hear most of the time saxophone in this context of jazz also. So I was thinking that this can make sense to bring it here to Latvia, and in the picture of teaching. But then we try to connect it to play music live, because that's the main aspect of a musician. It's when you play on stage to people, that's the moment which matters the most, more than everything else, more than all the emails and all the great handshakes. It's about being on some kind of stage, playing to people the music you have. It's all that matters at the end.
So would you say performing is more important than creating the music?
Well, as improvisers, we're improvisers, so it's
So you
very
only
connected.
improvise.
It's very connected,
There's
these
not-
two processes, yeah.
There's no composition you already agree on before you play.
He talks a bit to you about this.
Well, no, we improvise, but at the same time, the material and sometimes comes from compositions we know. But in a way, improvisation is like talking now. You know, we don't know what we will say next, but somehow we are choosing topics and things we talk about that are kind of not new to us. I mean, this is like composition, so like material we already have talked about many ways before with other people before. But in a way, anyway, every moment is unique, and it's always sort of a creation. You know, it's like you have this frame of it's a composition: your chair, the microphone, and the setup, and the way we talk, and what you want to talk about. But it's an improvisation after all, right?
True.
And it's not like maybe a theater play or a pop concert where you have every note the same. You know, just think we would just talk something we have written down in beforehand. You know, so that's this mixture of composition and still creating other ways, new ways.
So what are the boundaries then? Because look, we could switch from one moment while we speak about jazz to next when we speak about aliens or something, right? Would it be possible in jazz for you guys to go totally out of bounds with something while still actually playing notes and controlling the rhythm, but just the total opposite of the previous section?
Yeah, you can mix basically a lot of things. Like if you mix jazz and aliens, you have Sun Ra, for instance. So
What?
you have music again.
What do we have?
Sun Ra makes this kind of philosophy which is external from this world. You search all kind of energies. You can really mix a lot into improvisations.
So Sun Ra is a music genre?
It's a musician. It was a musician.
Oh.
It's dead. He's dead now.
Oh.
But he was thrilled about such topics which are not anymore very related to
Did he do
this earth here with its boundaries.
Did he do drugs?
Sorry?
Did he do drugs?
I am not sure. Maybe not.
So I would imagine that would help you get so out of the box.
I don't do drugs. I can imagine that some jazz musicians really took drugs, even for that reason.
Wasn't look, you can educate me on this because you are literally an educator, right? But wasn't jazz started in the 20th century with the blacks in America? Am I wrong?
Yeah, that's like roughly one part of the picture. Yeah, maybe a little bit earlier. It's a very complex development, of course. Yeah, it's not that all the blacks got together. Let's make jazz. Yeah. But some music happened that led towards another music, and then another community getting together playing this kind of music. And sometimes some journalist, even a white guy, came up and said, "Let's call it jazz." But actually, there were quite many people refusing that name for their music. But anyway, now we are like 100 years later. Let's call everything jazz.
And does the name mean something? I don't know what the origins are.
There's no official definition what it means. It's more interesting to ask everyone what is jazz. What does that mean to you, right?
I always thought jazz is something that's just improvisational for the most part and not really similar to anything that would be, I don't know, bluesy or anything like that. But yeah, I wouldn't be able to tell you any jazz song or, for that matter, anything jazz related, I guess.
This is a whole topic for itself.
Wasn't there the, I don't know which dude who told it's more important which notes you don't play?
That's nice that you know that. That's a nice saying.
Yeah.
Maybe it's like when you talk, it's the same.
Yeah.
Silence is very important to listen to hear stuff.
Well, technically there is a musical composition that's just silence, right?
John Cage, yeah.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
but is that really music then?
Wow. Yeah, that's a nice question. Yeah. What is music?
This is very interesting. You can get into deep talks with this.
Go ahead.
Because if you say there is silence as a principle,
Mhm.
then every song is played over that silence, so to say. And then you have already two worlds meeting all the time. That's one way of seeing it. It's many ways how you can see this. Depends on everyone's ears also, everyone's brain, everyone's knowledge, everyone's history.
Do you yourself have some sort of philosophy when it comes to music, or music, at least styles, or anything that matters for you in the context of actually describing or defining the music you do?
Let me at least answer this in context of what we are doing.
All right.
So in this case, what interests me is that you can hear the other one's personality out of his music in a way. So just from how he plays, from how his sound feels to you, you can reach back to his character also. You can hear if someone is more the aggressive person or more the quiet, shy person. You can hear if someone is in a high state of energy and creations, or it's in a mellow mood of a person as a being. And this is inside the music in a very very complex kind of DNA structure.
So you're saying that not every time jazz musicians are only mellow? So I would imagine that would be the default.
Sorry, say that again.
I mean, if you say you can actually hear the sort of the personality through the performance,
Yeah.
I would imagine that the performance is always some sort of, I don't know, bluesy overtone. It would be the correct one, but still a little bit mellow. Otherwise, would you really be a jazz musician if you wouldn't feel a little bit mellow?
Ah, now I see what you mean. Okay. Well,
Because you don't play polka, right? There's no tune in jazz that would be similar to polka, right?
Well,
many questions that I have to answer in one
Yeah.
sentence. But let's try. Let's speak. Let him speak a little bit now. Yeah.
I think probably you find everything in the jazz world, even polka tunes, Marschmusik, death metal, whatever, rap. It is all come together. For some jazz musician who might not even call themselves a jazz musician, I don't know. It's a state of mind. It's a way of how you deal with each other, how you approach music. If you are an explorative human and you want to kind of discover stuff, maybe improvise in a way, you can integrate any kind of music into that space, and it's been done. You can go on and find anything you want. Also polka and techno and electro music and new music and Bach and Beethoven and you name it, it's there.
In jazz?
In jazz. In jazz.
Man, that sounds so difficult to actually comprehend, right?
Because probably you have not.
So what defines jazz then? What is the criteria when you say, look, if you talk about dance music, simple dance music, right? You probably will guess the beats per minute, right? You probably will guess at least some parts, and then you can just say, oh, this is definitely some dance music or some techno music, whatever, right? So when it comes to jazz, what are those criteria that you'll say, oh yeah, this is definitely jazz, and not, I don't know, rhythm and blues?
But has it to be defined anyway that way, or is it more fun to just take it, and if you are in there, you explore it there and are inside already? You don't have to ask so much, is it this, is that? Because this changes from everyone you're talking to everyone you're talking to. It's it's a matter of taste inside this
I
question.
see what you mean, but then again, if jazz is a genre, I guess it's considered a genre by itself, right?
This is a point you have. I
Yeah.
mean, if you want to sell music to people, you have to make it a category. You have to put a label on it in order to place it somewhere in your store, in order to make it findable by someone. You have to name it hip hop, you have to name it jazz.
Hmm?
Or if you make a radio show, you want many people to listen to it, you have to put a name, you have to tell people.
Some tag.
Is it
Yeah.
folklore or is it blues or whatever? Some tag, yeah. And the tag world also. So in this sphere, it's probably worth thinking about what would you call your music? Is it jazz or not?
Hmm.
And usually things that have the tag jazz tend to be the kind of jazz people really know as jazz, like swing and Louis Armstrong, probably you know him. John Coltrane, maybe even if you know him, or Miles Davis.
Probably
There
heard
are
of
some famous
some,
jazz
yeah.
musicians who still define what jazz is to most of people in the world, because this is the music that sells the most. This is the music that people will listen to on the radio, right? But it's like a little bit like the head of an ice mountain. You know,
Alright.
this is the Louis Armstrong jazz, and it's all over radio, television, and internet, and it's called jazz.
All right.
Yeah.
But if you ask jazz musicians and artists that have a broader view on jazz and more experience, you find that there is like 99% of the music that wouldn't fit into that radio show, but it's still jazz.
It sounds like a lot like alternative musicians just describe. Oh, I don't want to be commercial, but most of the time they still do some form of a particular genre, right?
Well,
It's just
there is commercial jazz as well. You find that too. So there is also that mixture, like very sellable jazz. It
so
exists.
sonically it would be different from non-commercial jazz.
There are extreme cases like this, of course. There are musicians who are never played in the radio because their music is too far out of tonality or strict rhythms and
But
those
see,
kind of things.
but see, you get to your point back again, right? At least for you, you said that performance is one of the actually most gratifying things for you as a musician, right? So imagine if you are non-commercial jazz musician, right? And you go, how do you find those people to actually go to your live performance, right? In a
That's
sense,
a funny question. Yeah.
Yeah, but in a way, this
people
is,
have to like you to get
but
to
in
your
a-
concert.
maybe in a way that's like the wrong conclusion to make. I mean,
How come?
I mean, this is like the rise of independent labels, of independent websites,
Yeah.
and podcasts, and so people find other tags and labels, and you, especially in this time of internet, you find your audience still like with other, like I said before, networks, and so if you say I play jazz, all right, that's saying I make music.
Yeah, it's a broad term. Yeah.
But I could also tell people I'm a jazz musician, and this will be, maybe the justification to be on a big scale jazz radio show. I play saxophone, jazz. But to really reach my audience, I also have to put a name to it. I have to describe it in words, and then I would say, okay, I'm influenced by beautiful melodies and songs and old kind of jazz, but also by folklore, blues, and like imagine music being a poetry where you have more time and more open spaces, and maybe thousands of other words. And you find these tags and words: indie, jazz, techno, noise, intelligent dance music, jazz, singer-songwriter, jazz. It's all.
In a sense, it sounds almost too much, right? Of the tags
Yeah,
are
well,
becoming so multiplied.
Yeah, well, it's with any organism growing. There's this big root called jazz, and then you have thousands of flowers.
Actually, maybe we can do it a little bit easier for me to understand. Could you actually pick, let's say, if I would give you the top 40 of this week, for instance, could you actually pick that's the most, at least if it's not directly jazz, could you say, oh, it's a little bit or at least closer to jazz than anything else from the list or something like that? Would you be able to say, oh, this sounds like it could be jazzy?
Jazzy is a nice.
Because the reason why I ask is, right, you have the top 40, which is considered most of the time the commercial music.
Yeah,
but again, the top 40 is so diverse many times.
But to be honest, I'm not so much informed about current success music, because it's not where my ear wants to go, even if it's all over the place. If I go in a coffee, I know they play those kind of songs, but my ear doesn't get catched anymore by it. It's a little bit close to silence for me. It's a background thing. It's like a table. I don't say, oh, I have never seen such a table. This is crazy. It has so funny edges. And what is this? This is interesting. It's a little bit like this concerning the music which we call successful these days, because there is so much interesting music going on in the very sub region, which is so big. I was listening to a conversation that someone explained the darknet, and I think it's a little bit similar to that we have the internet, which is big, but compared to the darknet, it's completely small, because there's so much going on beyond what we get faced into every day.
So it sounds almost like an ideology to me.
A what?
An ideology. I mean,
Let me
it seems like it has an identity attached to it, like almost a philosophical identity attached to it. But I guess music wouldn't be the right thing to identify with, right? Music is just something that either attracts you or doesn't attract you, right? It's a sort of dynamic process.
It's all of these things
Yes.
somehow.
So would you say that you have all right? So for you, for instance, you go to a cafe, you don't really pay attention what the radio plays, but would you be able to tell me, all right, here's a song from the past 12 months I definitely like, I definitely know it's the thing I enjoy, in a sense that if you say you enjoy a particular song, that means in the world there should be at least 1 million that do, right?
I can give you.
So it's and if
example.
those 1 million buy the song, it will become on the top 40. So when you go next time to the cafe, you will hear that and you will just not hear it.
I know that there is an Australian rock band currently. They make very interesting music, and I was listening to it once. Their name is King Lizard and the Gizzard Wizard, I think is the name of the band. And it's rock music.
King Lizard.
Yeah, exactly.
King
and
Lizard.
the Gizzard Wizard.
All right,
they play rock music like in the 60s, 70s, but mix it with interesting ideas. They mix it with microtonality, for instance.
What's that?
And it's still rock music, but they change intervals. They are not used to be played in rock music normally. Like you don't hear that in any other rock band, exchanging that amount of intervals.
All right.
But still going with the rock beat and with the rock drive, and this, my ear was pretty happy with that moment, with those songs, even if it's totally not jazz. They wouldn't even.
It's rock, right?
Yeah, it's rock. It's rock basically. It has nothing to do with jazz, at least on the global market and things like this. But it's very inspiring hearing interesting projects like this.
Also, it sounds like you just enjoy music that's a little bit mended with something unusual. Because technically you could take any genre and do something a bit different that's not usually done in that genre, and off you go, right?
Just to maybe just to be clear or simple for me. I don't, when I hear music, I just listen. and I love a lot of music.
Mhm.
I don't know, if the radio's on and there's something that resonates in this moment for thousands of reasons, it resonates now because
Right.
I'm in an emotional state that I'm reacting, for example. If it's pop music, it's totally fine. Then you could try to analyze what kind of pop music is going on. Since we deal with music all the time, we are curious people.
Yeah.
Probably we are always looking for what's going on. Why is it great? What's going on, man? And so, like tasting food, you're looking for something that is exciting. That's just normal in life. If you watch a soccer game, you want it to be exciting. You want stuff to happen. And you
Now,
don't want,
now
you
you can
don't
tell
want to
he's
watch.
German, right? He's supposed to speaking about football.
Oh, I would have to do this too, but I'm.
Oh, wait, so
He's
you
Italian.
are.
I wasn't. I don't have a soccer heart. I just.
You
don't
are,
have it.
I actually wanted to ask you: are you from the north or the south?
I'm from the north of Italy.
That's why you're so chill,
I'm
right?
from Alto Adige. Yeah, I don't have this Sicilian thing going on in me. Really not. That's another kind of Italian.
Because at one point in time, I always thought, oh, Italians are always like na 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 na, right? But no, it turns
Yeah.
out that most of the time you would divide between North Italians and the South.
There are many cliches. You know, it's okay. I understand.
Do you
that
do this?
people,
Do you do this?
No, I don't do this. Just to make jokes, basically. But I don't.
Yeah,
do
but
this.
it's nice. It's a
I-
hell of a gesture.
Yeah, it's the Italian cliche thing, which is not applicable to me, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I've come to recognize, yeah, if an Italian dude is chill, he's probably from the north.
It's probably like that.
Yeah, but when it comes to Germans, not that easy. I mean, you could probably differentiate Bavarians, right? But other than that, yeah, you could fool me as a Hamburger or as a Berliner or Stuttgarter. Well,
Yeah.
Stuttgart does have an accent, right? They have an accent.
All over accents.
Yeah.
See, we are talking about stereotypes and how we perceive them and how we deal with this. You know, it's like tags for people.
Tags? Oh, tags. Yeah,
Tags.
Yeah.
So it's basically kind of fun.
Yeah.
This putting identities on stuff.
For sure.
I think you always have to be aware that it's just a concept and it's just your own perception, and it's much more fun to be fluid and to see what is really happening beyond that image you have from someone. Right?
No, but honestly, if we're talking about the stereotypes or prejudices, I expect from German-speaking people and those close to their vicinity, I expect more for them than from anybody else. To be either, well, you know what I mean, more productive, more advanced, more civilized, more everything. I literally I expect it. So that goes for Northern Italians as well. And I think Northern Italy is somehow or another quite different economically as well, right? And politically than
Well,
South.
this is a big topic, and I'm too much over other countries to tell you precise facts about my country.
What
'cause
can you
Italy-
say about other countries then?
Italy is a super crazy, complicated state, which is not. Nobody is able to lead our state, so that means a lot about Italy, and it's definitely different from other places. We have so many changes. Every week we change our system, at least in parts. So you don't have that unique Italian way. It's maybe on the map you see, Italy. It's
Yeah,
that
the boot. Yeah.
But in this frame, there is a million little
Well, it's
stretchings. and-
probably just historical, right? Because Italy was just basically states, small states. Venice.
that is one part of this whole thing. Yeah.
And what
Venice
else?
was
Milan.
the capital once, and then Milan, and now
yeah,
Rome.
all those city
And-
states.
And things in Italy are too crazy for me to understand them entirely. So please don't put me into
How long
politics.
have you been outside Italy? Now with all those Erasmus things and whatnot.
Well, I was already outside as a born baby because my mother was traveling in other countries with me.
Ah.
So then back to Italy and then school there.
Mm.
And then settling down in the north and then going to study to Germany. But I was also often in Austria, and then I went over to America the first time, and then I went as a kid also. I was in Israel because of my father, and then I was basically most of the European states for music or other reasons. Africa, Cuba. So I've seen things.
Oh, Africa, what do you mean? I mean
Morocco.
Morocco.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I'm too interested in world developments than putting it just my place where I should be come from because I'm just born there. It doesn't make sense to me. I'm part of a global species, the human
so
kind.
So cosmopolitan.
Yeah, but it's really true because then you bring it back at a certain point. I'm sure about this, that I will be settled perhaps in Italy for quite a good time and bring all this knowledge. In a way, it's knowledge. I bring it back, I settle it down, and that moment didn't happen so far. Just didn't happen.
What about, I guess, well, Germany has more of a tradition when it comes to leadership, I guess, right? I mean, you don't change that often with your political leadership.
With Merkel?
Yeah. Is she a record holder now, or is still the who was it? Kohl, right? The longest one. I guess Germany is the direct opposite.
Yeah,
I guess
it's for sure the first time I get asked stuff like this, because mostly.
Well, what did you expect?
Mostly musicians are too far out of these questions. I mean, it's reasonable to ask, but it's not easy to answer if you are. In our head, at least in my head, I have other questions, more.
All right, tell me about it.
More relevant for me, because.
What are those?
Yeah, it's if you ask politic things, I'm not into politics as you might guess, at least to that degree, because I don't think others can decide things for me so much, because we are not part of big groups as a jazz musician, at least. As a jazz musician, you are a small, very movable element in society, and you are not like a football, soccer company which is very big, which has a lot of members and everything is crazy with money, and this is not happening in our field. So it's very switchable from one moment to the other. We can morph through society, and that's the great point about being this. I think this is perhaps not so much possible if you add or if you grow the amount of people in something, because then expectations arrive, very big expectations, like where is the beat, you know, the football stadium, 20,000 people, they need a beat to go crazy together, and the more people there are, the less flexible things become. So for myself, I live in a flexible cosmos which is made of small groups which are too small for the politic raster.
Sounds like a hipster Linux user. Right?
Yeah, I should call my band like this. I will remember that definition.
Yeah.
Because if that would get too big, you wouldn't be interested anymore. Or too popular, too crowded.
It's an aspect in a way. What do you say about this?
Well, probably that's like the normal process. You have some people starting something interesting and it's flexible, and then it's kind of hip, and then thousands of people like it, and it becomes stiff and commercialized in a way, being used for online marketing, making money stuff. And then the areas of, for example, Berlin, the areas full of little clubs and art galleries are getting washed away for big shopping malls.
Nowadays?
Pardon?
Nowadays, you mean?
Yeah, I mean in the past 10 years, let's say.
Isn't it coming back? Doesn't it come back with all those? Well, for instance, you were in the Kanyepe, right?
Mm-hmm.
Aren't those type of?
Probably you are in a different period in Riga. I don't know that so much, but in Berlin, for example, you had obviously just after the collapse of the wall, you had lots of spaces where you could live for free, you could set up underground places and could create great stuff, and that's why many people, interesting people, moved there, and that's why in the end it became fashionable and trendy, and then you have other stores and other like what you say, real estate business going on. So some areas in Berlin, they have gotten really expensive, so the club owners had to go somewhere else, and now it's moving to other parts of the city, and that's probably the what's it called, gentrification. That's what's happening to many places, I guess. That's like.
It's probably the traditional style, right?
Yeah.
There's some sort of I don't know, outcast city part. Then some artists move in, and it becomes fashionable, and the rent prices go up, the property prices go up, and then afterwards they just move out to another thing.
Yeah.
I guess so.
Yeah, that's New York basically. Yeah.
In New York too.
Yeah, it's.
And that's probably also, but I don't know so much about that, but that's also some internet platforms and communities there as well, right? I mean,
yeah,
it might be the case. Would you say that you are outside of music? Are you sort of competent or savvy in other fields as well, or is just music the thing you could do day and night? Other things are just only for you to be fed, and that you can sleep under a roof, and then it's off to make music again. Or do you have, I don't know, do you go hunting or something like that?
Well, I'm curious at least. I sometimes well, I mean, music to me is a very, very broad space of activities and teaching and moving. Somehow you have to study your body movements. I did some Feldenkrais and Tai Chi stuff, but I'm not an expert.
What's Feldenkrais?
You know, Feldenkrais is something like also Alexander technique, or maybe you've heard Greenberg method. It's just people. That's a guy from Israel, Moshe Feldenkrais, who was who I think you could call him teacher of movement. Like the way people move and the way how you perceive your own movement. And
is it supposed to be like calisthenics or plyometrics, or is it more like Tai Chi, where those Chinese senior citizens go in the park and just do some yoga type of stuff?
It's interesting.
Well, is it physically exhausting?
No.
Oh.
The way I understand it, for example, with Feldenkrais is you get little exercises, but also like you have someone who moves your body in a way, like you just lie on the floor, for example, and someone, let's say, lifts your head and moves your leg.
All right.
Just very, very subtle, so that you perceive a position in your body that you kind of perceive a balance and a flow of natural, alignment maybe of your bones.
Right.
And you perceive a situation in your what is that called, like in your knee or shoulder, like the Gelenke, the joints, that you wouldn't have had without this specially trained person having moved your leg. So for the first time in years or in your whole life, you experience, this is how my joint should be, so that I could move really freely and effectively.
So sounds like a therapy, but not really a medical therapy. It's just some alternative procedure then. It's a jazzy procedure.
Actually, it's quite also quite
Quite quiet.
scientific in a way.
What you mean?
Well, they have many descriptions and dealing with dancers and other people really needing to have a very accurate awareness of what's happening in your body. You
Yeah,
know?
it's really sounds like some functional movement therapy
Yeah,
type of
that's
activity.
It's called functional something.
Mm-hmm.
Like the way we sit now, for example, it's the way how it's our habit, you know,
Sort of.
and it's connected to how we were raised and what we feel and the whole psychology.
Get out of here!
All that stuff, you know.
It's
So-
just what you
So
what you
these
ate.
method-
You ate a cheeseburger. Oh.
and these methods just make you aware of what is connected and what are the reasons why you move like you move.
Oh, so that's the thing that you enjoy doing?
I enjoy that,
Right.
yeah, because it helps me as a human and as a musician. Like,
Would you say that helps you even actually create or get some inspiration?
Yes, of course. Yeah,
Really?
yeah, it helps. It's probably better than smoking
Have you-
weed, I guess.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to ask you. Have you tried to just get drunk or stoned?
I'm not the drug person guy. I never smoked in a way.
Well,
Being drunk.
talking
maybe-
about microtonality, right? There's microdosing, right?
Okay.
Yeah, that's a concept for I think athletes.
Like doping.
I don't know if it's considered doping, but I know for sure that there are some, for instance, kickboxers who use micro doses of mushrooms, and they basically say that it helps them to concentrate more, to get that intellectual edge, right? It's not,
mean,
it
definitely.
doesn't get you a high or a trip, but it still affects your nervous system. It somehow
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, many
Resonates.
people do this, and it's not a big secret. It's just a matter, it's your thing or not. There are many great musicians who never took anything because it's not their thing, and it makes sense.
And it's also, I mean, coffee and sugar.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
that's
just
what I mean.
accepted drugs.
There is
and
legal
so-
stuff which is more dangerous than some illegal stuff, so it's that
see
relation.
now you get political.
Yeah,
Right.
it's a genre of manipulating yourself, definitely. Yeah.
So essentially, you do that, right? You just try to do it in more alternative ways than just choosing between legal or illegal stuff. It's just that, oh, look at that. You have some, what's it called?
Feldenkrais?
Feldenkrais. Feldenkrais. And what about you? What do you do?
Well,
Outside of music, I mean.
I grew up in the mountains, and I have to admit I love traveling, also far distances to crazy places on mountains, like high
Hiking?
yeah, where the trees are not anymore and there is not really a sign. You have to know the mountain very good. And I did this a lot. I lived on mountains
Mhm.
whole summers, and it's the right place for me because you are alone a lot, and the place gives you everything you need, gives you silence, gives you sounds, gives you time to settle down. You don't have access to any kind of disturbance, like internet and phones are not available up there, no shops, and really nothing beside your music and what you really need. And this centers me quite a bit. It did a lot to me. This is one thing for me. Yeah.
So outside of hiking and music,
Well, this is already
there's
2/3 of my life.
Yeah, that's what I mean. There's only sleep. Besides
Swimming.
that.
I mean, if there's any sport I have to choose, it's swimming. I do it very much too less, but it's the kind of movement I enjoy. Water and these motions. So swimming. Yeah.
All right.
Then we're done, I guess. Yeah. But music is the boat above everything at the end. For me.
So to wrap it up, you both met in Stuttgart, right?
Precisely.
Yeah. And then afterwards, you just talked, I don't know, somehow by phone or whatever, and then you met up again in Riga, right?
You can summarize it that way. It's not wrong. Yeah.
Yeah, and so now you're in Riga, right? You will be still in Riga, right?
Yeah, we will play tomorrow at Trompete.
Well, what I mean is he's just visiting Riga, right? You are educating in Riga. You are teaching in Riga.
I'm giving a master class at the academy
Oh.
for 3 days.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, it's a short period.
So then I'm
Back to Stuttgart.
back to Berlin.
Berlin.
Yeah.
Oh, so you were in Stuttgart also just for some temporary moment.
No, I'm teaching in Stuttgart, but I live in Berlin.
That's quite far away, right? Is it?
Yeah.
It's modern lifestyle. Everyone, you work in Riga but live in London. You know, it's people do it nowadays.
So what did you mean? Do you mean that you travel every day?
No, it's once a week.
Ah, so you go to Stuttgart, live there, and then go back. Ah, see? That's what I thought.
Yeah.
Can be crazy.
Yeah. Not every day. That's how. Yeah.
It's probably like 600 kilometers, right?
Yeah.
Riga, Tallinn every day.
Have you've been to Estonia as well, right?
I've been to all the places. Yeah, Vilnius, Tartu, Tallinn.
Oh, actually, tell me about it. Do you have any observations about the people in the different places? I mean, you as a jazz musician,
Yeah.
you probably would be attuned to finding every nuance. I mean, if you would ask me, you could let's say you can sit there and a Lithuanian, and I wouldn't be able to tell you whether or not he's Lithuanian or Latvian, right?
Mm. Okay.
In a sense that can you get the vibe from a nation?
Yeah, this is a special case because these nations are very close. Then it's much more about just the human who is in front of you. It's also the environment. It's the different politic direction. It's different place on Earth. So the climate is very different. So all of this together, you feel a difference.
Mm-hmm.
But finally, you also realize, if it's about humans at least, humans are always humans no matter where you go. They have fears, they have states of luckiness, they have very similar tendencies, at least in the world I travel to. So
Everybody
even-
sleeps and eats and
Yeah.
shits, right?
So there is a summary like this. If you go to Cuba, it's a very different place with very different history, but people, they want to dance, they want to make music, they want to sleep, they want to have children, and it's in the world I travel, it's very much
I thought they want to go to America.
very similar, with many unsimilarities at the same time. So the nuances at the end which make the difference.
What do you think? What are the conditions to make? Is it fair to say to grade jazz music? In a sense, to say what are the places or what are the circumstances that the best jazz music is being produced, played? You get the point. Are there any conditions you could actually imagine of being so favorable to producing jazz music that you could say, oh, that jazz music would be better than, I don't know, somewhere else?
Please.
Oh, I
Help
don't know
me.
if I
the,
understand
no,
you
no,
right,
because the reason why I ask is
Yeah.
this. Look, if you go to Germany, right,
Mhm.
you would probably expect not just some scooter, right, but still you would find more some dance techno in the Netherlands as well. You can definitely find some techno there, right? When you go to France, Britain, Sweden, you will have some pop, dance music. I mean the real, I don't know what to call them, the most popular in a sense, I guess, because nowadays especially, I mean, you have EDM, right? And then when you look from where it comes, most of the time I would say it's either Scandinavia or Great Britain, and that's about it. Well, of course you have many things in between, but still, right? You don't have I don't know. You don't have any famous EDM DJ from Morocco or something like that. Well, do you have some regions for jazz musicians for jazz music? Because in the sense, I guess in Cuba,
Yeah.
for instance, you could have what? You could have
Cuba is huge music-wise. Because there is a big natural way of making music, so they can adapt this very quick. They are very talented by ear, not by reading music, but by listening and doing it from a kid.
Mm-hmm.
And you see kids, 8 years old, if you give them 2 drumsticks, I saw it, they play amazing things. Because they have this kind of... There's a different independence.
They're trained, right? They have been trained, either directly or indirectly.
Body-wise, they dance a lot. They can move parts of the body much more independent, like Europeans. I think you could check this in body studies also.
Mm-hmm.
So stuff like this is happening. And concerning jazz, I'm learning every day about stuff like this. So where it's and where it is not. So Germany has a big kind of presence of jazz currently. But as we all know, things change on the world, and it could be another country in some years. People talk about what's the name in English? Poland. Yeah. They talk about that country. It raises. Maybe people move there, maybe not. So this is a movement of culture interests, and I'm not the one who decides where it is. I can just learn and see perhaps where it goes to.
Oh, so you are sort of just an observer, not a...
Of course, I'm just one guy. What can I change? I can change nations with music. That's not my attitude for music, not now.
But music would be still for you guys to actually impact other people, right? I mean, still, the point of you playing music, of doing the thing you do, would be to actually influence other people, right?
Yeah.
Affect, that's what I mean.
In a way, yes. In a way, that's what we are grateful for as well, to be able to maybe, by sharing what is moving us, by that moving people. And maybe this can have all sorts of effects. I mean,
Have you ever
your heart out there, and this always affects people. You can do that by cooking great food, by writing beautiful stories, by being nice behind the bank counter to the customer, by looking at someone in the subway. This is politics for me.
Well, social politics for sure.
It's the everyday life where you can have an impact. And if you somehow represent truth, honesty, and being upright and open, this maybe will be a good basis for any sort of political, social, commercial development.
That's right. I can give a curious kind of example which happened to me in America, which affected me. It was a very strange thing. And to give all this kind of an end, to end it weird, so to say, I was doing a little photo shoot in New York, and I decided to do it in a clock store.
Were you the model or the photographer?
No, I was the drummer who needed pictures for his projects. And I decided clocks as a symbol for rhythm and as the kind of mechanics for some kind of music. So I went in that clock store, and I had a symbol with me.
That's the
part of the ding 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 as a drummer. Okay, I had this here with a little line, and I went in there, and the clock owner, who is a very clocks are his passion. He's just thinking about clocks, nothing else. That's his life. He sees this and thinks at the first moment that I come in his store to repair my clock, and so he was thinking this is a clock. So so he was telling me this and took the symbol and was very happy to see something like this because it has the shape like a clock. And so he took it and watched it and wanted to know things about it. And at the same time, I came in that clock store, and many clocks make rhythm. You notice the rhythm of the clock.
Yeah, sure.
Tick, tick. But these are like 25 clocks making polyrhythmic stuff with different sounds. And so I had a very surprisingly good moment in a place where I usually don't am. I'm not so much in clock stores, so this was kind of calming, and there is music, this is so great. And he was similar happy with my little thing I brought too. So it was a very beautiful photo shoot at the end. It was not long. This moment was over at 10 minutes, but this kind of sharing experience and going into places like this, I enjoy it. It happens as a musician sometimes that you mix things that are very far away, but then they come together and then it's done and you go to the next place.
The unexpected is what draws
this
you to
was
that.
unexpected. This was a true unexpected moment for me.
So was that a jazz moment?
Yeah, that was a jazz moment.
Really?
We can call it a jazz moment.
Let's call it a jazz moment.
So everything that's sort of out of the blue, but still fits a certain need. I don't know.
In a way,
certain
we have this need.
Affection,
Yeah.
right? Would be jazz in a sense.
Yeah, why not?
Yeah, there is. I learn from moments like this. This is a kind of teacher to me when it appears. This was an extreme case. This doesn't happen so often because normally I know I go in a club, then some music will arrive. You know, that's what's happening in a music place. But if you go in a clock store, I wasn't thinking about this at all, and then it came and it was really nice.
Have you incorporated some clocks in your performance?
Well, I have a
Or
nice
at least a
picture
ticking.
now.
At least a ticking.
What
Do you incorporate, or have you incorporated the ticking sound in your?
I did similar things, not especially with clocks like this, but I did similar things with polymetric happenings. Not with clocks so far. It's
Coming.
It was that moment which interested me. That place with 25 clocks. It was special. It was that. I leave it there. I don't retake it for now.
Oh, and you know what I didn't ask you? Do you also record music?
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
No. Maybe only the live performances are what you're after.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Both. Yeah, it's part of the music world to record.
So where can people find you? I mean, if
Well,
they go
these days
you
you just
iTunes or something like that.
Yeah. These days you just Google the names and then you find stuff.
Oh, so you don't have any pseudonyms, like stage names?
No, in jazz music generally people run by their civil names,
Yes.
right?
So for you, it would be then, if I want to find you on iTunes or any other platform, what would I have to type in?
You would have to type Christian Weidner.
Weigner?
Weidner.
Weidner.
Yeah.
And for you?
Jonathan DeLaser.
Which sounds
Damn.
like an artificial name, but it's actually your name.
Sounds like Major Lazer. That's what I'm saying.
He is Major Lazer.
And this duo especially, we have a name actually, which is Dreed. So it's a mixture of drums and reeds.
D-R-E-A-D.
D-R-E-E-D.
Ah,
Whatever you find, if you enter that in internet, I don't know what you find then. But this is the name of
Dreed.
Yeah.
All right, so jazz is your passion.
Yes.
And, how long are you performing in Latvia?
Tomorrow is last gig with Dreed. It's the 28th April 2018 in Trumpete. Some Latvians will play as well. And I hope to meet new people, new elements, new live parts.
Get some jazz moments in your life.
Thank you.
Let's
All right, thank you as well.
Thank you,
All right,
Laurits.
good luck.
Thank you, Laurits. Yeah.